Hello everyone, back tuning into today's second video. We're going to have a look at the weather for the next week to 10 days. For today's second video, that will take us around the 29th of October. We'll be able to extend out beyond that with the extended GFS and ECM ensembles, say around to a couple of weeks. That gets us into the beginning of November. And of course, have a look at CFSV2 at the end of video for the next month. That takes us into the second half of November. Beginning though with what's going on in the Gulf of Mexico, just heading on to Coast America with Tropical Storm Nestor. So more on that very shortly. Just to say that weekend forecast has been released. This video will cover the same time frame, of course, but weekend forecast has been released. Have a look at that, see what's going on. CFS 6 months log coming up for you tonight. I'll talk you through the tomorrow's updates. Lots of them coming up at the end of the video. Going to start off, as I say, in the Gulf of Mexico. So we've got Tropical Storm Nestor here, just heading on to the Gulf Coast of the United States. So Tropical Storm Nestor is currently giving maximum sustained winds of 50 miles per hour with a minimum central pressure of 996 millibars, moving quite quickly at 17 miles per hour, and no doubt bringing with it a lot of very heavy rain as well. This is a forecast track of Tropical Storm Nestor. It's not predicted to make it to a hurricane. The current position is just there. By the end of today, Nestor is going to be moving inland somewhere between Florida and Georgia, then heading up to South Carolina tomorrow. I say moving very quickly, this system. By 1 o'clock in the afternoon tomorrow, it's gone up to North Carolina, and then it's out into the Atlantic by Monday and Tuesday. All of that, of course, as a post-tropical storm and eventually post-tropical depression. So it will give quite a blow, though, to that Gulf Coast of the States, and no doubt there'll be copious amounts of rain associated with it as well. Coming back closer to home, the central temperature is currently looking like this from Hadley for October. So this is provisional up to the 18th of October, standing now at 11.5. That's an anomaly of just 0.1 of a degree above average. It's come down a little bit over the past few days. It'll probably fall further over the next 2 or 3 days. We've got some quite cold nights coming up, especially early next week. There'll be some widespread ground frost. So I reckon this is going to go under 11 degrees early next week, go down into the 10s. But then later next week, it might start to tick up a little bit again. So quite where we're going to finish, still uncertain. It may be somewhere now, I think, between around 10.5 to possibly 11.5. Somewhere in that area. Of course, there may be a downwards correction as well when we get through to month's end, so that will shave off a few tenths of a degree as well. So, not sure where this is finishing at the moment, but the idea for the next week is ticking down for a few more days and nights, and then probably lifting up later next week. These are the 500 millibar height anomaly flowcharts from the Penn State University for the next 7 to 10 days. We've got the ECMWF on the top, and the GFS, which we'll have in a moment, is on the bottom. So 500 millibars, 8,000 meters area in the absolute high pressure and low pressure are being moved around by the jet stream running above. Red extrapolates to high pressure and blue to low pressure. You can see that the ECM in a 7 to 10 day time frame really does have high pressure dominating. This is a large area of high pressure that's building across much of northwestern Europe and up into the North Atlantic. Actually, there's a deep trough of low pressure in the central part of the Atlantic just there, and another deep trough is plunging down through Scandinavia, northeastern Europe and western parts of Russia. That will be bringing a blast of real winter with it. We could well, in the 7 to 10 day time frame, see real winter digging in across Scandinavia and western parts of Russia, and also those Baltic Sea areas. So that will be something to watch out for. Some a rapid build-up of snow cover before October is out. It's very possible there across northern and western parts of Russia and into northeastern parts of Europe. But for us, we're under this ridge of high pressure. We're kind of on the periphery of that cold plunge. That's going away to our east-northeast. We're under this ridge of high pressure, probably a lot of dry and settle weather with that if it comes off like that. But GFS looks very different though. Real contrast between the two models in the 7 to 10 day time frame. Again, just telling us how much uncertainty there is about this late October to start of November period. We've been talking about this in videos a lot over the past few days. There is so much uncertainty about this end of October period. I'm not quite sure what's causing it, because actually the tropics are going into a quieter phase now, so I don't think we can put this down to the influence of tropical storms and hurricanes in the tropical Atlantic. So something else is at play, possibly just northern blocking. You see that the GFS has this area of above average height centered over Greenland. Whenever you get northern blocking into the mix, then you get high pressure over Greenland and the Arctic into the mix. So reliability of the model output does plunge quite a bit, because it goes away, if you like, from the default setup, especially at this time of year, to have high pressure there. So that will always cause added uncertainty within the model output. So anyway, the GFS has that area of high pressure over Greenland in the 7 to 10 day time frame. Low pressure is across the northern Scandinavia into northern Russia, not plunging that cold air down into northeastern parts of Europe quite as much as the ECM is doing. Also has this deep trough low pressure in the middle of the Atlantic. That's eventually going to try and return us back into a westerly flow, and then a ridge, which is quite a warm ridge actually, across eastern parts of Europe. That's sort of fending off these cold northerly winds that's trying to plunge into eastern and northeastern parts of Europe. For us, I think the GFS is the most unsettled of the two models. Definitely, ECM does suggest a lot of fine and dry weather as we get through to day 10. These are the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles for the next couple of weeks. So the red line is a 30-year upper air temperature average for Manchester. Going to be quite cool over the next few days, so that's why I think the central temperature will tick down further in the next few days, probably going under 11 degrees by the early part of next week. But then later next week, towards the middle and last stages of next week, and then into the closing days of October into the start of November, we actually see the temperatures lifting up a little bit, so it becomes a bit warmer as we go through into the end of the month. Of course, that's associated probably though with high pressure, so at this time of year you might not necessarily realise that upper air temperature warmth on the surface if you're under a stagnant area of high pressure. Long nights now, of course, the nights are now longer than the days, so the heat radiates out into space if the skies are clear quite quickly by night, and so temperatures, even under a ridge of high pressure with warm upper air temperatures at this time of year, temperatures can start to get quite cold under that ridge, particularly by night. We call that an inversion. You'll be hearing more about that, I would have thought, in the next few weeks. As far as precipitation is concerned, we are going into a drier phase, because we said in weekend forecast we're going to have a respite from the rain, certainly until the sort of closing days of the month. Maybe it's starting to turn more unsettled as we get through to the end of October, beginning of November, but that of course is a really long way off. This does look like it's going to be a much drier sort of final week, 10 days of the month. Temperature anomalies from the 19th to the 27th of October. North-south split, so Scotland and Northern Ireland a little bit cooler than average, England and Wales a little bit above average with the temperature anomaly, if anything. Not a big deviation though either way. Precipitation anomalies show that Scotland and Northern Ireland a little bit wetter than average, England and Wales drier than average, and quite significantly so actually for parts of England anyway. It does look quite significantly drier than average now in the week ahead from the 19th to 27th of October. That's how the latest GFS run is looking for Tuesday. So Tuesday is going to be dominated by high pressure in the main, mostly dry day. This is all covered by weekend forecast, of course. So a lot of dry weather on Tuesday. For Wednesday, cloud and rain coming into northwest of Scotland, but England and Wales probably still mostly dry. Temperatures beginning to lift up through the middle part of the week as well. Second half of the week has a go at beginning to turn more unsettled, and particularly to the north and west, there could be some rain on Thursday and Friday, but for the south and east, probably a reasonable amount of dry weather again. Having a go at going wet and windy there for the start of next weekend. That's Saturday, 26th of October. Quite a deep area of low pressure is out to our west. But then high pressure sort of re-establishes through the course of next weekend, bringing increasingly dry weather with it. Winds are starting to switch round to more of an east-southeasterly. That would be relatively warm for the upper air temperatures. Again, on the surface, if the high is clear, then we could start to get some colder nights. That's how we look at day 10. So we have got some northern blocking here at day 10, and this could explain the uncertainty for this end of the month period. We have got high pressure over Greenland. It's extending down towards Iceland. You'll notice around the back of the high, we are bringing down cold air into Scandinavia and northeastern parts of Europe and western Russia. So a bit of a cold northerly plunge is attempting to push southwards on the back of the high. Also got this really deep area of low pressure in the Atlantic. That's very stormy low, and that's going to try and break down the ridge. What happens with this GFS run is that ridge does indeed get broken down by that low pressure, and so as we go to the start of November, we're going into a much more unsettled phase. That's as far as we can go to Monday the 4th of November, and we're looking like we're back to wet and windy weather then. So the drier phase doesn't last very long. It only lasts for like the last week to 10 days of October, and then by the start of November, we are well and truly back under the cosh from the Atlantic once again. But we do get a drier interlude at the very least. This is how the GM is looking. So again, we've got high pressure more or less in control across the whole country on Tuesday. That high is still reaching across England and Wales on Wednesday. Scotland looks a little bit more unsettled. Through to the end of next week, so low pressure is turning things increasingly unsettled across the north and west, but the ridge still just about holding on across the south. Temperatures lift up through the second half of next week, I think, especially for England and Wales. Notice blocking area of high pressure over Greenland, with low pressure trying to plunge colder air southwards into Scandinavia. And then we start to look like this as we go into more extended range of the GM. So this gets us through to Sunday, 27th of October. Then we've got quite a big blocking area of high pressure setting up, centred around Iceland, with low pressure out in the Atlantic and cold northerly winds around the back of the high, plunging southwards across much of sort of northern and northeastern Europe and western parts of Russia. We're still on the mild side of that ridge, but of course, again, if skies are clear by night, we could radiate the warmth into space very quickly, start to get some quite cold nights going, even with relatively warm upper air temperatures. That's how we look at day 10. So by that point, the high is more or less over the top of the country. It's just centred to the north of Scotland. Looks like it's slipping a little bit down across the UK. Cold air, of course, is plunging around the back of the high across much of northern and eastern Europe. There's the upper air temperatures. Many parts of Europe, certainly from Germany, north and east, plunged into genuinely cold, wintry conditions. And this is Tuesday the 29th of October, so we haven't even reached November yet, but winter well and truly bedding in there across Scandinavia and western parts of Russia. Quite unusual for the end of October to see it that cold across the northern, northeastern parts of Europe. That would sort of pile up the snow cover very quickly across Scandinavia, Baltic areas and western Russia. Bear in mind, this is for GEM, so it's a long way off and it's one of the more unreliable models. You'll notice we're just on the periphery of the -5 ice firm sitting in the North Sea. So upper air temperatures aren't overly cold, but would certainly be cold enough for night frost. If that came off, we'd be looking at a CET well and truly into the 10s. So, again, so much uncertainty about this final week to 10 days of October. And then we've got the ECMWF looking like this. So, high pressure is quite dominant as we go through the middle part of the coming week, although Scotland and Northern Ireland turning more settled by Wednesday, England and Wales under high pressure. Second half of the week, again, it's in the north and west, so we're going to have some cloud and rain. I think in the second half of next week, England and Wales should just about hold on to dry weather. And temperatures will be lifting up, possibly going into the mid to upper teens Celsius in the second half of the week in the southeast. That's how we look as going to next weekend. So high pressure again, increasingly dominant. It's not as much of a northern blocking feature at this point with the ECM. Just a large ridge really extending across much of Western Europe and then going northwards. So the upper air temperatures with that are going to be quite warm, but again, long nights likely to radiate heat in space quite quickly means that there could be some pretty cold nights, in fact, under that area of high pressure. And that's how we look at day 10. We saw it on the 500 millibar height anomaly flowchart. The high is well and truly in control. The wind is coming in from like a east to southeasterly direction. Cold air is pulling around the back of the high into northeastern parts of Europe. There's the upper air temperatures again showing many parts of Scandinavia, Baltic Sea areas, western Russia into northeastern parts of Europe. All those areas looking quite cold, with definitely an early taste of winter around the back of the high. Where we're on the warm side of the ridge, so we've got these warm upper air temperatures, because it's not as straightforward as that. That's the 29th of October. So just how much we realise that those warm upper air temperatures on the surface remains to be seen, and it will be determined by how cold the nights get, whether we get mist and fog going under this area of high pressure, whether it's a cloudy high or a sunny high or a clear high. All of those things will determine what the temperature is doing under that ridge by day 10. But again, definitely breaking out of this unsettled weather that we've been in for quite some time. These are the options that are on the table within the ECM ensembles today for day 10 from the Icelandic Met Office. This is for the 29th of October. 26 members of the ECM ensembles have a ridge of high pressure centred around Iceland, so a northern blocking feature, essentially high pressure between Scotland and Greenland, low pressure as a trough plunging through Scandinavia. That brings in probably quite cold east to northeasterly winds, so mainly dry, yes, but probably quite chilly. 18, including the operational run, that's the run we're just looking at, had the high pressure much more centred towards the UK, and so it's a warmer solution in terms of the upper air temperatures. Under the ridge, though, it could be quite chilly by night. And then 7, with high pressure around Iceland and going up to the north generally, and quite a deep trough of low pressure sort of digging in to our east-southeast just here. That's probably the most unsettled option on the table, and will be bringing in quite cold east to northeasterly winds, I would have thought, with that. But only 7, dear man. It looks like high pressure should be in control still at day 10, but where that high is sitting will determine what the temperatures are doing, what the feel of the weather is like. And then to the start of November, these are the options that we've got. This is getting us to the 3rd of November, 360 hours away. We have 26 members of the ECM ensembles with high pressure centred right over top of the country, so that will give lots of dry weather for the start of November, and be potentially quite cold at night as well, depending on if the skies are clear. 14 with high pressure again blocking to the north. Low pressure is to the southwest. That's the most unsettled option, probably the mildest option too. That will be bringing up the wind from a south-southwesterly direction, although it does have quite considerable levels of high pressure to the north. And then we've got 11 members of the ECM ensembles with high pressure out to our northwest. So a mid-Atlantic ridge really going up towards Greenland. Low pressure is to our east, and they will be bringing quite cold northeasterly winds, I would have thought, or maybe even easterly winds for the start of November. We could have a seasonable start to November on the way here, with high pressure bringing frost and maybe fog as we move up towards bonfire night. Again, though, bear in mind that the GFS has us well and truly under the Atlantic onslaught again by the beginning of November. Interesting, there's not much sign of that within the ECM ensemble. So definitely it remains the case that the end of October and the start of November is a very, very uncertain period within the model output, within the ensemble output, and also within the operational output. But attempting to extend out further, this is what the CFS is showing in terms of the 500 millibar height anomalies for the next 4 weeks. So week 1 takes us from the 19th to the 25th of October, the coming week, with above average heights out to our west-northwest, trough of low pressure over Scandinavia, and a warm ridge across eastern parts of Europe. It's a complicated pattern, but essentially we're pulling in the winds from like a northerly type direction, so probably relatively dry but quite chilly. Week 2 is interesting. This is the 26th of October to the 1st November. This is when it's getting very, very uncertain. We see that the CFS today wants to have high pressure around Greenland and Iceland with low pressure from Scandinavia through the UK into west of Europe. That will pull in the winds from a cold northeasterly type direction and would be quite a cold end to October with that, actually. When we go through to week 3, which is between the 2nd to the 8th of October, trough of low pressure is over top of the UK, the ridge through the North Atlantic up towards Greenland again. That probably places us on the cold side of the jet stream, so a cool, unsettled, maybe quite cold, unsettled start to November. And then week 4 is the 9th to the 15th of November, and then we've got northern blocking strengthening between Scandinavia and Greenland, so kind of like in the Norwegian Sea, with low pressure out to our southwest. We'd be doing something a bit like that, but flowing with the jet. The model would probably say mild with the temperature, but very easily we could pull in some cold east or northeasterly winds there. And of course, by the 15th of November, by mid of November, the continent will be very rapidly cooling down. So a really interesting run from the CFS today. It could be an outlier, but certainly quite different from what the CFS has shown over the past few days. Temperature anomalies with the CFS for the next week, the 19th, 25th of October, are below average, a cold and average week coming up if the model is right. And it gets colder for week 2, actually. This is when the high centres around Iceland. So 26th of October to the 1st of November is definitively below average with the temperature for the UK and for Ireland as well. We haven't seen that with the CFS for quite a long time, that the model forecasts below average temperatures. Week 3 is the 2nd to the 8th of November, going average with the temperature then. And week 4, as I suggested, it is sort of trying to go a bit above average, a bit more than average in week 4. It's the 9th to 15th of November. It's trying to go a bit above average, but wouldn't take a great deal to pull in cold east or northeasterly winds. So a very interesting CFS today, and siding on the colder side of things, interestingly, for the end of October and beginning of November, which is, of course, quite unusual for CFS, because normally it will try to go onto the milder side. We see within the short range output, both in terms of the operational short range models and also their ensembles, there's a lot of uncertainty here. There is still a chance at the end of October and the beginning of November could go quite cold, I think, but probably a lowish risk of doing that. And my guess is that we get to the beginning of November and we will probably see the Atlantic blow away any attempts of northern blocking, and we will go very unsettled again for the start of November. That's my guess, but it might not be right. And we'll, of course, monitor this over the next few days, and it will probably be the focus of the updates next week, I would have thought. Right, so got CFS 6 on look ahead coming up for you tonight, probably around 7 o'clock, 6, 7 o'clock. That's going to be taking you from next month, from November, all the way through to April. It's only to have a laugh at it. Don't take that one too seriously. And then tomorrow, we will start off with the 8th Winter 2019-2020 update. That promises to be another proper epic. We will have the ECMWF, DWD and Metro France seasonal model update for you tomorrow, as well as the third Christmas written update and a live stream between 5 and 6 o'clock on YouTube talking about that winter update. How I'm going to fit it all in, I don't know, but we will get it in for you, and that's what you've got coming up tomorrow, so keep checking back for all of the videos and updates. But that's all for now, and thanks for watching.